Welcome to the Be That Healing Girl podcast. And today is all about how to heal your anxious attachment and enter your soft girl era. And I really made this episode because I was thinking about in the past how I definitely was one of those girlies that was saying, why isn't he doing more? I'm doing all the work and I wish he would do more. And I wouldn't say I was angry, but it was almost as if the fights between my husband and I, especially when we were first dating, were like clockwork. And they were just almost on a schedule, I would say. And I would just feel this like major irritation and there would be this blowout. And it happened all the time. And honestly, I can't even remember the last time we had something like that. And I would definitely say the evolution into my soft girl era is part of that. So, if you are the type of girly that is experiencing where you're doing so much, they're not doing enough, you're kind of like these fights keep happening, then this episode is for you. And if you're new here or you're an oldie, I love you. My name is Claire. I'm your host, and I love helping girlies who are high achievers, but also really struggling with having a lot of anxiety and overthinking in your relationships. And I definitely know and feel within myself that there is a correlation, and you might be experiencing that right now yourself, where you are doing all the things. In fact, one of my other clients, not surprisingly, I have multiple clients that have literally more than one career. They're doing multiple things, or they're really high up there. They're in New York, having their own business. Like, they're doing the things, and at the same time, at being so successful, they are really struggling with their romantic relationships and feeling soft and being in a soft girl era. That might feel really foreign or, in fact, scary for some of you. So we're going to talk all about that. And if you're enjoying this episode or any of the other episodes, then leaving a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple is so appreciated. I love seeing the reviews go up. I really appreciate it. It makes such a difference, and it takes literally 1 second. So let's dive in. So I was thinking about this particular episode, and it's because I saw this TikTok, and this girl she's, I guess, on like a public transport, and she is just crying, and she's beautiful. And she basically, the script on the TikTok was, girlies who grew up in an angry household, how do you be soft? How do you be gentle? And I don't even know why I haven't made a response to that TikTok yet, and I should, but I felt like, honestly, the conversation is so much deeper than what I could give on a 60-second video, 3-minute video. And I just so related to that. And I don't necessarily relate to the angry, but a lot of my clients grew up in households where there was a lot of reactivity, fighting or yelling, whether that was one parent, both parents were loud, or they were yelling at each other, or there was like family fights, siblings with parents. Like, whether it's one, all, a piece of those pieces, then I've had a client like that, or clients like that, multiple, where there was a lot of anger in the household. And I mean, even reflecting on my own experience, there wasn't like ballistic fighting, but there was definitely anger in the household. And that's not always a characteristic for relationship anxiety or anxious attachment, but I noticed that that's kind of a flavor of that. So when I say flavor, I mean it's like Madagascar versus French vanilla, right? There's the similarities, but they're slightly different. And what I was realizing with that TikTok is that, especially if you're listening to this podcast, you're in my world, you are a high achiever. And so inherently in that, there is this desire to achieve, to do, and that in itself can really be a component of just pushing and really achieving and climbing, and grit, I guess, that comes with that, like, and also a resilience. And that also has a lot to do with the resiliency that you create in a household that was really angry, where you had to just basically put your blinders on or put your imaginary noise canceling earphones on in order to get your needs met in your early childhood. And so one of the things that I know from my own experience and working with clients is that when we are used to a certain frequency, and I say frequency because it literally gets hardwired into your nervous system, okay? Like literally, it gets hardwired. In fact, this is so strange. I was watching Knocked Up with my husband. It's a kind of a cozy day today. And there's a scene where she's going into labor and she's in the bathtub and she's telling the other main character. Knocked Up is a great movie if you haven't watched it, but she's like, we have to be calm, like, because her doctor is missing and he's not available. We have to be calm, and she's in the bath, and we have to be calm because if we're stressed out, then the baby comes out in a stressed environment. And I just started laughing because this movie is almost 20 years old. I can't believe that. But I was just like, yeah, that's 100% true. Where even at birth, children are so susceptible to stress. That's why water birth, going natural if somebody can, is kind of ideal, because we literally get wired at such young ages, even at frickin' birth, y'all. Even at birth, we get wired for certain things. So I was watching that TikTok with a girl saying, if you grew up in an angry household, how do you learn to be gentle? It literally boils down to even your wiring. Now, in my mind, I would hear this as well and think, well, I'm screwed. Forget it. I was wired. But just as easily as we can put in a new sound system in a Sonos or something, or put in a sound system in our car, we can also learn how to rewire ourselves. But if you heard me say this once, at least once or twice or 1,000 times on my social, but what we don't repair, we repeat. So if you are wired, literally you were in a household, I'm going to just make an assumption that until you were 18, maybe longer, maybe shorter. But if you had that environment where there was a lot of volatility or reactivity, and it doesn't even have to be in this big drastic way. Maybe there was some sort of uncertainty, or just somebody was missing, and even in the most benign, safe, wonderful households, you're not immune, right? You're not immune to feeling like your needs weren't getting met, or somebody could go missing. Or I've had clients where maybe their dad would just go on business trips like during the weekend, and still that uncertainty affected them. So learning how to be soft in the face of you have experienced extreme reactivity or volatility is something that you can retrain into your body. And for me, that definitely took a combination of pieces. And one of the big pieces is, and this, I just think about my worst times with my then boyfriend, now husband, when we were going in this whole avoidant and anxious cycle, where I would have like an anxious episode. I would be totally in my mind spiraling, freaking out, playing it cool on the outside, but inside I am just freaking the hell out. And what I didn't understand about rewiring myself and repairing was that it's not just about in the moment, how can I feel better? Now, of course, we can help our nervous system to regulate. I like to call it self-soothing. But really what I'm talking about when I say self-soothing is regulation, self-regulation, emotional regulation. A big mistake that we make is trying to just fix it in the moment. This is literally like you're having a heart attack and you're at the doctor in the middle of the heart attack and saying, well, fix me. And of course, we can give you some Bayer. Bayer is like a medicine you can take to help, I guess, do something with your blood vessels. But yeah, that might help, but you're usually in the process. Like there's very little, I believe, that can happen in the middle of the attack, right? And in reality, it's not just what's happening in that moment. It's all the things that led up to the heart attack, right? So when we look at, so for example, if you are having a heart attack, you probably have had, how was your health before that? Were you working out? Were you eating the right things? Were you minimizing your stress? Like all those things impact heart attacks. It is the same thing for like an anxious attachment attack. Like when we have anxiety, when they're not calling us, they haven't texted, it's been 4 hours. Oh my gosh. We try to get it in that moment. And the reality is that's just literally one drop in the bucket of what actually needs to happen. And I will tell you, as testament and proof in the pudding with not just myself and my clients, but it really is about creating a longer runway, creating more space and more just a cushioning so that you're not going into situations and having a freak out moment because you have been diligently doing things ahead of time. So a big mistake that I see in healing anxious attachment is that we try to just get it in the moment. And I love you, but that is not a long-term plan. Winging it is not a long-term solution. And unless you do something, you're only going to repeat what you don't repair. And not only that, I thought really for a long time that I could just like, oh, if I just, I don't know, find the right person, it'll get better. No, I found great people. And because I wasn't doing the healing work, I pushed them away. I messed it up for sure. In fact, I saw a guy that I used to date come up randomly on my Facebook feed, and I was like, yep, see, yep. Blessings to him. I'm super happy, but I'm like, oh yeah, I totally messed that relationship up. But again, this isn't about like just fixing it in the moment. This is fixing it for the relationship you're in now and the relationship in the future. So really, if you're in that space where you're learning how to be soft and learning how to not be so angry in your relationships or things just blow up and they get out of hand, it really is about understanding it's not just in the moment. This wiring goes really deep, and the repair needs to reflect the depth of how long you've been exposed to it, honestly. So I can just say I've been on this healing journey now, for sure with my husband. We will be celebrating 8 years together this summer. And I can definitely say that the road to repair, where this is just like not the life that we have now is literally such a 180 compared to what we had. And this, I believe me when I say this, I do not mess around. I don't F around with my self-care and my self-soothing, because I see how powerfully it's impacted our relationship, our marriage. It's made it stronger. I have a relationship it just blows my mind every single day, how our relationship is and how happy we are compared to where we were when we first started dating. So I don't mess around when it comes to treating my body and treating the repair process with a lot of attention, intention, and just making that a priority. So it's totally possible to learn to be in your soft girl era. And I guess the big thing that I would have you ask yourself is, are you actually making it a priority? Or are you treating it? Are you winging it? Okay, that's a big one to chew, y'all. So think about it. And of course, if you have questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram, and I'll do my best to help you there. And I'm so glad that you're here on the podcast. Sending you lots of love. You can claim your soft girl era as long as you choose it right now. And it's about the recommitment again and again to choosing soft. All right. I love you all. Mwah.